Bro, we got some news here. We got some big time news, some quarterback news. The con artist has been in the background cooking too. We got some signings to talk about. He's always working. But we got to start with this coming from Adam Schefter. Free agent quarterback Russell Wilson is scheduled to fly tonight to Cleveland to visit with the Browns on Thursday, before being scheduled to fly to New York on Thursday night to visit Friday with the Giants. You know what that means. And Rodgers, you are a Pittsburgh Steeler. Welcome to the Steel City. Welcome to the black and gold. Gotta be, right? Gotta be. Or it's just that the Steelers really, 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 really don't want Russ. And Russ sees that, and now he's looking elsewhere. No matter what, this isn't a bad sign for the Steelers getting Rodgers. Steelers backup plan, and Russ is visiting with other teams. Why? Because he doesn't think he's getting signed by the Steelers anymore. And who's the Steelers' first option in all this? At this point, it's Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers isn't on another team yet. He didn't make his decision. It's down to between the Steelers and the Giants. So those are the two teams Rodgers is considering. And then why would Russ visit with the Giants if he had a clear sign or he envisioned New York getting Aaron Rodgers? So boom, right there. I mean, I think it's pretty clear. The tea leaves, all the signs are pointing to Rodgers being a Pittsburgh Steeler. He's the Steelers' first option. The Steelers' backup plan is looking elsewhere. Rodgers' two options are the Steelers and the Giants, and Russ is visiting with the Giants on Friday. Or maybe all parties involved have no clue what the hell Rodgers is going to do and are just covering their bases and doing their due diligence and all this. But still, I think it's a good sign for Rodgers to Pittsburgh. No matter how you really want to look at this, I think it's helping Rodgers' chances in signing here. I'll put it to you that way. It doesn't hurt. It's a good sign. So for people that the Rodgers to Pittsburgh hopefuls, I think you could celebrate a little bit. I think you could be like, okay, yeah, I like this. This is good for our chances. Because I think Russ is certified gone. He's definitely not coming back to Pittsburgh. I mean, I think I actually saw, whenever I was browsing the web, I think I saw some black and gold 3 jerseys on discount on Fanatics already. So Russ is not coming back. I think everyone knows that at this point. Clearly the Steelers didn't want him, and now he's officially moving on as well. He's looking elsewhere, going to visit with a couple of different teams here. Now for Russ's next team, there is an agenda that I want to happen here between the Giants and the Browns. He's got to pick the Browns. I hope so. Like, that's the team he's visiting first. I hope it's just a done deal as soon as he gets off the plane and meets with Stefanski and all them on Thursday. Because he has the chance to do the funniest thing. Russ, in back-to-back years, joins the team that Kenny Pickett is on. Steelers last year have Pickett as their only quarterback on the roster. Browns this year, after the trade that they just made with the Eagles, have Pickett as their main quarterback at this point. I think it's just Pickett and Zappy, really, on their roster. So Pickett has, as of right now, a pretty nice path to potentially be the Browns starter. Last year, Russ goes to the Steelers. Kenny ain't happy about it. Kenny leaves. What happens if Russ goes to the Browns this offseason? What happens with Kenny? At this point, though, I think Russ, is he just like on the hunt for whatever team Kenny is on? Is he just seeking out wherever Kenny Pickett's at and wants to take his spot? Might be a kink or something. Might be a weird kink. Someone might need to tell Ciara about this. Like, when was Russ to the Browns even a thing this offseason? When was this being talked about? And then all of a sudden, Kenny gets traded there and Russ is on the first plane to Cleveland. If Russ actually signs with the Browns, we'll see what Kenny's reaction is this time around. We may finally get the Kenny Pickett, at least Steeler fans, this is something we've been waiting for, the Kenny Pickett, Russell Wilson showdown. It's just not gonna be in the black and gold. It's gonna be up in Cleveland with our, big time division rivals. We may finally get the Pickett to Wilson offseason showdown, though. It's like Mayweather Pacquiao, something we've been waiting for. It took a bit, but then we're finally here. Mayweather Pacquiao obviously took way longer than Kenny Russell Wilson, and that is if Russ decides to go to the Browns, because Mayweather Pacquiao, that felt like it took a decade. I think it ended up being like 6-7 years, but it felt like every 6 months or so, every couple months, the Mayweather Pacquiao stuff would circulate. First Take would be talking about it. It'd make its rounds on SportsCenter. When are we actually going to get this fight? What's going on? There'd be the back and forth, and then it would just keep dragging on. A year goes by, 2 years go by, 3 years go by, 4 years go by, and we finally got it. And it was just like, this would have hit a little bit better a few years back. At least Pickett Wilson, it would still be kind of fresh, right? The competition was supposed to happen last offseason, and we'll just get it a year later. But yeah, that'd be awesome. I think that's the thing for Russ to do. That's what I'm rooting for. Because even aside from the whole Kenny versus Russ thing, you got the storylines are there for the Steelers just because of the Kenny Russ thing, but also no matter who starts, no matter who's going to be the guy for next year's regular season, we're going to have a juicy matchup there. You're going to have the storylines. You're going to have the headlines. Former Steeler quarterback, whether Russ or Kenny, facing former team. And that team, the Steelers, has kind of turned their back in a way on both. I mean, some could argue that Kenny turned their back on the Steelers, that the Steelers were very willing to keep Kenny on the roster last offseason and have him and Russ duke it out for QB1. But in a way, with the Steelers signing Russ, they indicated that, Kenny, we don't believe in you that much, even though we do keep saying that we believe in you to the highest regard. Bringing in Russ says a little bit otherwise. And then obviously this offseason with Russ, we have our chance to re-sign him, and we look at 4 or 5 different options before potentially even looking to Russ. Now, Russ is doing his thing. He's got to look out for himself. He's got to do what's best for him and his family. He's going to go visit Cleveland, going to go visit the Giants. But again, I do think all this points in a positive direction for Rodgers coming to Pittsburgh. Now, I would be, I think, doing a little bit of a disservice if I made it seem like Rodgers is a complete slam dunk, because now the Vikings are being thrown into the fold a little bit. Diana Rossini said that the Vikings are still talking about potentially bringing Rodgers on. So take that for what you will. Maybe that's some of the holdup, because up to this point, we just thought it was between Steelers and Giants. But now if the Vikings are being thrown into this, that could hurt the Steelers' chances. You could take the report for what you will. This is like the first time we're hearing Vikings in a serious way over the last several days. I'd be hard-pressed to think the Vikings are going to go that route. I really would. With J.J. McCarthy being fully healthy, coming off that injury, the guy that you traded up to get in the first round last year. But if they do, if Rodgers goes full Favre trajectory, what should the Steelers' pivot be? And I talked about that a little bit earlier. I mean, there's talks about Mason Rudolph coming back. I wouldn't mind trading for Joe Milton. But if Rodgers goes to the Vikings, we should trade for J.J. McCarthy. We definitely should be trying to trade for J.J. McCarthy. That's how I'd play it. But, man, I still think it's Rodgers to the Steelers. I still do. There's a bunch of other stuff. The dudes on the McAfee show keep talking about it. They're acting like we don't know anything. A.J. Hawk saying, I want him to go to Pittsburgh. If I had to pick a team, I want him to go to Pittsburgh. So I think that's going to happen, man. When is it going to happen? That's a whole different story. We're on Aaron Rodgers' timeline right now. And a decision needs to happen soon. I also said this earlier today, because we got to figure out how to build out the rest of this roster. And having Rodgers here will enable us to sell to some of these free agents. If we get Rodgers, I think all of a sudden Cooper Kupp becomes an interesting play as our slot receiver, maybe even Diggs as our third receiver too. Like, look at that offense then. Rodgers, DK, Cooper Kupp, or Diggs in the slot with Pickens on the other outside, Freiermuth at tight end. We just brought in Gainwell. We've Gainwell, Warren in the backfield. I guess Patterson's still on the roster, but I'm expecting he's going to get cut. And then we draft a running back in the first or third round, one of these stud running backs in this class. It's a hell of an offense. And our line shouldn't be that bad. We got 4 of the 5 pieces I feel pretty confident in on this offensive line. Frazier, Sayamalu, McCormick, Bautanu. Broderick Jones, wild card at left tackle. But we drafted him a couple years ago in the first round. Make or break year for him. So hopefully the talent wins out. Hopefully the development wins out with Broderick Jones. And he's able to work it out, get things all together this year. Make it look a little bit better than what we saw in his sophomore year. Make it at least look more like what it was in his rookie year. That's the other thing with him. He was doing pretty good his rookie year, and then he went backwards sophomore year. So at least get it back to what you were doing your rookie year. All right, more news, though. More news we got to discuss. The signings. Even though we don't know who our quarterback is, we do know who a couple of our cornerbacks are going to be. Darius Slay, officially a Steeler. Didn't know what the deal was with that. And I guess we got to shout out Jordan Schultz, really, because he had this scoop taken care of Monday, like a couple hours into the tampering period, a couple hours into the free agency period. He said Darius Slay to the Steelers, done deal. Then you had a couple reporters say, it's not exactly finalized just yet. And now, here we are, Wednesday, March 12th. A couple hours into the official free agency signing period, and Darius Slay is a Pittsburgh Steeler. 1 year, fully guaranteed, $10 million deal. Deal negotiated by Drew Rosenhaus and Robert Bailey. I like this, man. I like this a lot. Because Darius Slay, he's up there in age. We get that. But he's aging pretty good. And if you look at last year, there's some really good separation numbers that are in Darius Slay's favor. Obviously, he was part of a Super Bowl championship winning team with the Eagles. Played a big part in their defense. It's not like he was the fourth guy coming off the bench or anything. No, he was one of their starting outside corners. Advanced analytics, advanced metrics are definitely in Darius Slay's favor, saying that he had a solid year. I don't see Eagles fans or anyone talking about how he was holding the Eagles back or like, oh, man, thank God Darius Slay's gone. I'm not seeing that at all. I'm just seeing that, okay, this is a little bit of a risk because he's up there in age and, another year, especially playing the cornerback position, typically doesn't do these type of dudes favors. But there are outliers. Charles Woodson, all-time guy, played into his late 30s, played at a very high level. And it seems like Darius Slay may be more on that trajectory than a Patrick Peterson, a guy that we've compared this signing to over the last couple of days. Because Patrick Peterson, Hall of Fame guy, Darius Slay, probably borderline Hall of Fame guy. Steelers both signed them on the back end of their careers, and we saw how it worked out with Patrick Peterson. And now with Darius Slay, we'll see. We'll see. I will say this. I think Darius Slay is at a much better spot in his career when the Steelers signed him versus Patrick Peterson. I think Darius Slay is just a more impactful player, and he's still got it more than Patrick Peterson did at that point. And I think the contract shows you that. We signed Patrick Peterson for $7.5 million per year. We're getting Darius Slay for $10 million. Now there is, even over the course of these last 2 years, there's been a serious inflation in the NFL salary cap. So maybe the deals are a little bit more aligned than what I'm leading on right now. But still, yeah, I don't think this is a bad move at all. This is not a bad move. And I'm happy that we actually got confirmation that Slay is going to be a Pittsburgh Steeler, because with the reports coming out that it's still up in the air, we got to see all these other top cornerbacks fly off the board. And if Slay ended up changing his mind, or the Eagles wanted to play hardball and try to trade him or something like that, we would have been left empty-handed. at the outside cornerback position and getting a big name guy in here because, yeah, the cornerback market dried up pretty quick over these last couple of days. So I'm happy this deal was set in place from the start, gets finalized today. We got Darius Slay as our CB2 across from JPJ. Obviously going to be a good mentor, good guy to have in-house, provide some leadership, provide some of that Super Bowl moxie, been to 2 Super Bowls over the last 4 or 5 years. So hopefully he helps with the team chemistry, doesn't allow any BS to slide behind the scenes. But we also got another cornerback. And, like, this is what I mean. Khan's cooking low-key here. All these signings, they're not making the biggest of headlines. They're not making the biggest of waves. I guess Darius Slay is the biggest name that we just brought in. But, again, with his age and everything, I don't think many national media people or many pundits are thinking, oh, man, this is such a slam dunk move by the Steelers. Like, they're improving their defense tenfold. No, I think most are thinking, all right, that's a savvy little move. Nothing crazy, but it's a nice pickup. I think Slay's going to be, I'll put it to you this way. I think Slay's going to be an upgrade over Dante Jackson. I do. I think he's going to be an upgrade over Dante. And what's crazy is, too, I know Dante had those 5 picks for us last year. Look at the contracts. Dante got 7, I think around, was it 6.5 or 7 per year to go to the Chargers? Darius Slay. More money. Less years. It's just a one-year deal. Fully guaranteed, though, for $10 million. He's getting more on a per-year basis than Dante Jackson. A guy that I felt highly about. I would have wanted back. But I think I'm happier we got Darius Slay. Either way, we did sign another cornerback, though, too. Like, we are building up this roster. Darius Slay, the biggest name so far. But, again, still not one that I don't think anyone's, like, overly excited about or going crazy thinking that the Steelers are absolutely stacking their defense with this Darius Slay addition. But it's notable. And then we picked up Malik Harrison, picked up Kenneth Gainwell on offense. And now, for our 4th signing, we got another cornerback in the house, Brandin Echols, former Jets cornerback. Been with the Jets for the first 4 years of his career. So, like, again, Darius Slay, the biggest name of these 4 signings. And then you have Brandin Echols, Kenneth Gainwell, and Malik Harrison. I like what Omar's doing. I think these are really nice signings. Darius Slay, we just talked about. And then Kenneth Gainwell, I think he's a nice piece to the running back room. He's going to be like our 3rd down back, dude out the backfield in passing situations, change of pace. Like, we're still going to add. We're still going to try to get that RB1, that guy that's going to split the carries with Jaylen Warren 50-50. But Kenneth Gainwell is a nice piece. He adds speed. He adds some take it to the house ability. Again, change of pace. Like, that's the style of running back that he is. And we're looking to get faster. We're looking to get more speed on this offense, particularly at the running back position. And he's been a nice role player for the Eagles. Never been the top guy. Sat behind Miles Sanders, sat behind DeAndre Swift, sat behind Saquon Barkley. But when he's gotten the ball, he's been very efficient. Very efficient with it. Whether it is out the backfield in passing situations, whether it is him getting some draws, him getting some carries in shotgun. He does some work with it. Averages 5 yards a carry, 5 yards a touch when he gets the ball. And then Malik Harrison, versatile piece at the linebacker position. You could play him at outside. You could have him at edge. You could put him at off ball. Took over Trenton Thompson's spot at off ball last year. And we could use, right now, as we look at our roster, we could use like that inside linebacker 3, inside linebacker 4. But then we also could use some help at edge as like a depth edge rusher, a guy behind TJ Watt, Highsmith, and Herbig. Malik Harrison would fit that role too. So I could low-key see him getting, 20, 30% of the snaps, moving him around on the field, being a spot guy for off-ball linebackers whenever they need to take a seat, or for TJ, Highsmith whenever they got to get out. Being out there in heavy running situations where we need him out there, 4th and short. I like that move. Taking a guy away from the Ravens. And then Echols, even with the Darius Slay signing, we said we still need some cornerback help. I was saying that even when the first report dropped from Schultz on Monday that Slay's going to be going to the Steelers, I still said we probably need to get at least one more corner because JPJ, Slay, after those two, you got Trice and Beanie Bishop, which we're feeling good about Bishop after that rookie year. We're feeling all right about Trice, but he's barely been on the field. And when he was on the field last year, he was getting cooked by Jamar Chase. But that's going to happen to anyone. We like Trice's upside, but as your third guy, not as much. Third guy, he's probably going to be on the field a significant amount. I'd like a guy that's a little bit more proven, whether we get a dude in free agency or we spend something decent in the draft. And obviously, if you get someone in the draft, they're not as proven, but someone with, a higher talent caliber, a higher, how do I want to put it? A higher floor than a Corey Trice. I think you could get in the draft if you pick someone early. But I think it would be more prudent to get a guy in free agency like we just did with Echols, because we do still have some other needs heading into the draft, particularly on that defensive line. And we gave up our second round pick for DK Metcalf. And we don't know who our quarterback is just yet. Still hoping it's going to be Rodgers. But anyway, Echols fits that mold perfectly. Fits that mold for CB3. 5 interceptions, 16 PBUs, 2 pick sixes during his tenure in New York. He has spot started for him when he's needed to. He can play outside. Like all of last season, pretty much, he was an outside corner. The year before that, he was pretty much inside. He was playing the slot. And then the year before that, he was doing a little bit of both and was a big-time special teams player for the Jets. So this is a good pickup. And one way you could tell whether or not it is a good pickup, at least on paper, whenever you're sitting here in the offseason, is how the former team fans react to the signing. And a lot of Jets fans are upset. They are very upset. They really like Echols. They felt like when a big play needed to be made, he was going to make it. Good nose for the ball, scrappy player. As I said, if you need him to start in a pinch, he can get you out of stadiums. I think he should be a better version of James Pierre. Maybe more like Cam Sutton in his prime, actually. Cam Sutton 3-4 years ago. This is the type of player that Echols can be, because Echols is hitting his prime right now. He's going to be 27. We don't have the exact details on the contract length or the monetary value for this Echols signing just yet, but I'm assuming it's not going to be more than a year or two. It's probably not going to be more than $5 million per year. I wouldn't see that. So I think it will be low risk, pretty decent to medium high reward, I think. Now our cornerback room's taken care of. I would say we don't got to worry about cornerback for the draft. Secondary, in terms of the other secondary spots like safety, yeah, we could still use a third safety for sure. But we're not going to go out of our way to get anyone truly expensive for that. Probably pick up a guy for a year, couple million, $2-3 million. I wouldn't mind Edmonds. Linebackers, I think, are kind of taken care of. Maybe there's another signing we can make. We could draft a guy later to add to the room. But D-line, I think that becomes D-line and quarterback. Those are our most pressing needs right now. So if we get Rodgers and running back. So if we get Rodgers, then we're looking at just running back and D tackle heading into the draft. Because we don't got to stress about receiver. I like our receiver room as is, but, bro, I'm telling you, if we get Rodgers, we should try to get Cooper Kupp. We should try to get Diggs. We should try to get one more piece, because if you got Rodgers, DK, Pickens, we make some of the moves that we made on defense, picking up a Darius Slay. We still got TJ Watt, Cam, Minka in the house, Patrick Queen. We're trying to win this season. And you can't tell me a top three, the top three guys on a receiving unit of Pickens, Metcalf, and Kupp are going to be better than not having Cooper Kupp as your third guy, and it being Pickens, Metcalf, and Roman Wilson or Calvin Austin. Especially with Rodgers, like a veteran receiver, I don't think he doesn't want to mess with the young player mistakes as much. And we wouldn't be asking Cooper Kupp to be your 2. We wouldn't be asking Diggs to be your 2. We're asking him to be your 3. working the slot, going up against safeties and nickel corners. We'll be cooking, man. Absolutely cooking. Be a great safety valve for Rodgers. Like that's what I think. That would be the rest of my free agency for the Steelers right there. Maybe still look at D tackle. We whiffed on D tackle. We whiffed on D line thus far. It's unfortunate. Javon Hargrave, he went elsewhere. Milton Williams, he went to the Patriots. We weren't signing Milton Williams for that. Don't get me wrong. There's been a couple defensive linemen that we've whiffed on, and the market's pretty bare at this point. It is what it is. You're not going to hit on everything. The DK Metcalf trade was awesome. There's a ton of good defensive tackles in this draft too. The silver lining for us missing on DT thus far in free agency is that you could still get a really good defensive tackle in the third round. It's almost like running back. And that's what I would do. That's pretty much what I would do right there. If we get Rodgers, we sign another receiver, and we sign a third safety, then it's just running back D tackle, and you take one of them in the first, and then whatever position you don't take, you take that in the third. Say we take Genty in the first, then you take one of the D tackles in the third. Say we take Kenneth Grant in the first, maybe you take one of the Ohio State running backs in the third. I doubt either of them would be there in the third, but who else would potentially be there in the third? Like a Scatterbo, the dude from Kansas State, maybe Devin Neal. I don't know if Caleb Johnson would be there, but you get my point. That's the path right there. We like this team would be pretty loaded. We'd be looking pretty good. I'm not gonna front. You know what? I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna jinx it. I'm not gonna jinx it. Maybe I will. Who cares? Who cares? Yeah, I already got a bet in for Rodgers winning MVP. So there's that. So we'll end it on that. Not a jinx. Knock on wood.